close to zero as possible. If you get a refund check for $5 or you pay the government $5, that's when you should be dancing around the house.
Get help from a pro, and there's lots more at CNBC.com. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Not many things scare me, kid. Vampires, werewolves, children, not one bit. But you know what does scare me? Downtime, inefficiency, scares the living daylights out of me. That's why I use Grainger. They're America's #1 source for industrial supplies. Plus, they've got the inventory management solutions that keep us running. So we've got uptime, we've got efficiency, we've got productivity. When it comes to keeping your facility running, Grainger's got your back. Call or click Grainger.com to see for yourself. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
California headline news. Senator Kamala Harris explains why she's decided to run for president.
I love my country. I love my country. And this is a moment in time that I feel a sense of responsibility to stand up and fight.
Harris, in her first term as a U.S. Senator after serving as California Attorney General, could face competition from her own state. Congressman Craig Swalwell says he may throw his hat into the ring, weighing in on issues like immigration reform, where he says he has some of the same concerns as President Trump, but thinks reform should focus on expired visas and ports of entry.
90% of the drugs that he is concerned about and I'm concerned about go through the ports of entry. That we have 5,000 vacancies at the Customs and Border Patrol, and we should fill those vacancies.
After the Rams defeated the Saints in the NFC Championship game yesterday, freeway signs in Louisiana read, "We got robbed." During the game, the Rams got away with a penalty that might have changed the outcome of the game. LAPD tweeting this morning they would help investigate the reported crime, but they didn't see any evidence of criminal behavior. Jeff Scott, California News.
At AT&T, we believe that access to affordable home internet brings incredible opportunities. Explore a digital world of possibilities and connect with family, friends, and the things that matter most. That's why there's access from AT&T. If you are a California resident and a member of your household participates in SNAP or receives SSI benefits, you may qualify for home internet at a discounted rate of $10 a month. No commitment, no deposit, no installation fee. Plus, get an in-home Wi-Fi gateway at no extra cost. Call 1-855-220-5211 or visit att.com/aware to learn more.
SNAP refers to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SSI refers to the Federal Supplemental Security Income Program. Pricing excludes taxes and fees. Service will include a monthly data allowance depending on the type and speed of service you receive. If you exceed your monthly data plan allowance, you will be automatically charged $10 for each 50 gigabytes of data usage in excess of your data plan, even if less than 50 gigabytes is used. For details about data allowances, go to att.com/internet-usage. Wi-Fi enabled device required. Other restrictions apply.
How would you feel if you had to make a choice between buying food or spending your fixed income on life-saving medicine? No one should make that trade-off, but many low-income seniors are forced into difficult decisions like this every day. Smiles for Seniors Foundation provides energy assistance and safety net services to struggling low-income seniors in the Inland Empire. They provide one-time assistance to seniors to meet specific financial needs. They've helped with food, housing, utility payments, minor home and auto repairs, along with life-saving prescriptions or medical equipment. A nonprofit foundation funded entirely by donations from local organizations. Smiles for Seniors receives no funding from the state or federal government. They are funded by local businesses and individuals like you with big hearts and willing wallets. You can find more information or to donate to Smile for Seniors at 909-790-6671. That's 909-790-6671 or visit smilesforseniorsfoundation.org. That's smilesforseniorsfoundation.org.
The most diversified radio station on the dial, KCAA.
Now, it's For the People with Judge Herb Dodell.
Oh, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me, Gary? Okay, there it is. One of the things I've always wanted to do with the show is to be different. And every week we have a different type of show. We talk about the law. We talk about a little bit about, I guess you could say, politics. We talk a little spirituality. We talk about a lot of different things. But today we are going to have a very interesting guest because the subject matter...
Is that her?
Is that her? Well, let me tell you what the show is going to be about today.
Okay.
We're going to talk about sex. Something you
still having that, Judge?
I don't think we answer those personal type of questions. But I'm still young and healthy.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, bottom line is we have a guest who's an adult actress. Is that the definition?
Yeah, I would call her an adult actress.
Adult actress.
Adult star, whatever.
But also called porn star?
Yeah, they've got different definitions for them.
We're going to talk about the law dealing with pornography and prostitution and things of that nature. I was always been interested in the subject. When I was a deputy DA, I was prosecuting places like massage parlors because they weren't just massages. There was a happy ending. And basically,
not for people that got busted.
And you know what? A lot of them ended up having to register as sex offenders.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's a serious issue. That's the last thing you want to do if you're representing somebody is agree to have them register, because every time they move into a neighborhood, they got to sign up. And everybody knows who they are. It's a terrible blot on your record for the rest of your life, really. But I used to do prosecutions of the massage parlors and things like that. And then when I got out of that office, out on the defense side, I represented a lot of the streetwalkers on Sunset Boulevard for years.
I remember them.
10, 15, 20 at a time.
Yep, there was a bunch of them back in the 70s and early 80s.
Well, this is about the time I'm talking about, actually. There were like four of us. Robert Shapiro, the well-known lawyer. Bob Shapiro and I were working with a guy by the name of Harry Weiss, who's long gone. And he represented many, many of the girls that were working on Sunset Boulevard. And a lot of the business that I got came from their agents. There's a name for them. They used to drive pink Cadillacs. But they're just agents. They were getting a piece of the action.
You're talking about pimps?
That's the word, yeah. And the fact... But they were very interesting characters. I got to tell you, I had one guy's name was Joe. I can't mention his last name, but he was a fascinating character. He had an interesting sense of humor. He was always pretty cool about things. It was a time that I was representing a lot of the local gangsters and stuff. So he was a kind of nice mixture into the crowd. So I've been on both sides of those, and we would go in sometimes into Beverly Hills Municipal Court. Those were days that we had a municipal court, and we would have maybe 10, 15, 20 girls there, work out plea deals. Usually it was to send them to UCLA to a therapy class, and that was it. Nothing really ever happened to any of them, but it was certainly going on. But today, with the Me Too movement and the emphasis on sex trafficking and the equating of prostitution with sex workers, and that's the term that's being used right now, sex workers. They've even unionized. And they are kind of flexing their muscles. I'm trying to think of a tasteful way to say that. Flexing their muscles.
Well, they're getting together because of all the sex trafficking that's going on throughout the world. It's a dangerous type of, I'd call it business or enterprise.
Well, look, prostitution is the oldest profession in the world. And even the biblical people can't get around the fact that many of the patriarchs and people that you looked up to had concubines, had other women, multi-marriages and things. People want to kind of ignore that and attribute this to some kind of perversion or criminal conduct. Many people see prostitution as a victimless crime, just as you would see people who were smoking dope. The same thing, victimless crime. And you go back, if you want to look at the law, because this show is a little bit about the law, you look back at Griswold versus Connecticut, the case we talked about a few weeks ago when we were talking about Roe versus Wade. They all really stem from the same concept that people are entitled to privacy. And I went back, and I think I mentioned it last week or the week before. When I was on vacation, I took with me the book 1984 by George Orwell, because Roger Stone, when we interviewed him, was talking about things which were very much the subject matter of 1984. And a lot of it dealt with the right of privacy.
Yep.
And supervision. And so if you're thinking about it, people should have the right to do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Well, it looks like Congress is taking up this issue. We actually have adult star Ginger Banks on the phone as we speak right now. You want to get her on right now?
Sure, why
All
not?
right, let's get her. Ginger, you there?
Hello, I am here.
Hi, Ginger. This is Judge Herb Dodell, and thanks very much for coming on the show today. The emphasis right now seems to be protection of sex workers as an adjunct to what was going on, and it has been going on with the Me Too movement, sexual trafficking and things that are popular subjects among some people. And now it's getting a lot more attention than it did before, including federal legislation and even in California, which we're going to talk about. And so we're going to talk about the law today. I understand that when I was talking to Gary that you have familiarity with some of the legislation and what's going on in your world. And we're going to talk about that. So we can talk about something called FOSTA, F-O-S-T-A, which is federal legislation. I understand the bills have been passed. I don't know if the president has signed it or not. And that bill passed 97-2. I just wonder who the two people are. I'll bet they're from the
McConnell.
I'll bet you they're from the deep.
One of them is Rand Paul.
Rand Paul? Really? Rand Paul? No, makes sense.
Well, he's a hands-off
I know that,
guy.
yeah.
He's a hands-off guy.
And then I don't know the second one. But it's unfortunate that that's the one thing we've had bipartisan support on, is something that claims to be helping sex trafficking victims when in reality it's actually making it a lot harder for them to get help and find evidence of them being trafficked.
Well, I understand you wrote to Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders, and got a favorable response. Tell us about it.
He actually never responded, but there was a bunch of people on the internet who seemed to have their eyes opened when I was just trying to show that sex workers are people that are trying to support themselves and their family, and that it doesn't do anything to help to equate us with people who are being trafficked, because the best way to combat trafficking is to separate out consensual sexual labor from forced labor, and then you can bring in sex workers as allies in identifying and combating this abuse, which is the exact opposite is what's going to happen because of these laws being passed.
Well,
and Trump did sign them into law back in March, unfortunately.
So you guys are against these laws?
Yes, they are worded in a way so that when you say you're against it, it sounds like, you know, we want sex trafficking to happen, which is completely false. We care about fighting trafficking more than anyone because we are the ones who are vulnerable to it. Losing the websites that allowed us to work independently and safely is what's going to already increase violence, economic instability, exploitation. All of these websites going down has made it unsafe for sex workers to do their jobs. I know personally many different sex workers.
Well, can you do me a favor, or do us a favor? Can you just explain what FOSTA and SESTA is actually, what kind of laws they are? Because a lot of people don't know.
It's a federal law that makes it a crime to operate or manage a website that promotes or facilitates prostitution, even if that's not the purpose of the site, even if the owners don't know that that's what's going on. And because of this, that's why Craigslist shut down its personal ads, Reddit shut down a few subreddits, and a bunch of other websites that sex workers used to screen their clients to make sure they're not dangerous. Those immediately were shut down as well.
So they shut them all down. They shut these down, and then where did the girls go now? I mean, I guess you're talking about these are like, I know Backpage got federally banned too for ads.
Backpage, the seizure of Backpage happened before SESTA was even signed and in effect. They've been trying to take down Backpage for a while now. I know when Kamala Harris was Attorney General, I think she was trying to get it shut down for a while. And then I think a court in Sacramento ruled against her, and then all of a sudden this new law is being signed into effect that it is harming sex workers. It's really crazy how they claim to want to help trafficking victims when in reality SESTA and FOSTA makes it harder for trafficking victims to find community services and safety. Like the people who are trying to help trafficking victims think they are going to be liable because of the way that this law is worded. It's so vague that people don't know their liability. So their lawyers basically say, let's get rid of all discussion related to sex because you don't know if somebody's being forced into it.
Well, it sounds to me that there are First Amendment issues here. The right to do as you choose to do as long as you don't hurt anybody else seems to be at stake in this kind of discussion. Shutting down the websites because they are, by somebody stretching the imagination, promoting sexual misconduct sounds like it's a little bit off the constitutional chart. Have they tested these laws yet constitutionally?
I know that the Woodhull Freedom Foundation and I believe the Electronic Freedom Foundation are challenging these laws in court right now. They're going back and forth on, I don't know the legal terms for it, but they're in court right now fighting it, and we're going to see what happens. I know the Backpage stuff is completely separate from this.
Well, it really would be a constitutional issue, and it would start out in the federal court system, go through this, what they call the Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the appellate court for the district courts, and then ultimately to the Supreme Court. But it sounds like, from an intellectual standpoint, that this may affect people's ability to earn a living, and it may not be narrow enough. Sometimes when these laws are too broad and they encompass all kinds of other things that should be protected, that makes them defective. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'm sure you're aware of the law signed by Governor Jerry Brown in California, which protects sex workers specifically to enable them to report crimes of violence, attacks, stalking, whatever it may very well be, without being prosecuted. And a lot of those people were afraid to report these crimes, violent crimes, because they were afraid that they would end up being charged with crimes of their own. Now that's no longer the case. You are protected from prosecution when you report a crime has taken place and you or somebody you know may have been a victim. The bottom line is it's an issue that is certainly coming to the public's attention based on the women's movement. But how do you differentiate between sex trafficking and sex workers just by virtue of definition?
It's all about doing it consensually and of your own free will. I think that me as a webcam model working from my house, choosing who I work with, I have a huge amount of privilege. And so I just want to bring light to this issue, since sex workers are some of the highest murdered rates of people because of the stigmatization and the criminalization that exists. I think that, the law that you're talking about from Jerry Brown is a really important thing to happen, because in the past, I think a lot of really bad people knew to target sex workers because they knew those crimes would be less likely to be even investigated in the first place because of who they were targeting.
Yeah,
so I think we're finally headed in the right direction.
Yeah. I think it sounds almost contrary to the federal laws that you were talking about. Jerry Brown was, for all of his years as governor and all the other positions he's taken, a fairly moderate kind of guy. And it sounds to me that he and I think it was Assemblywoman or Senator Friedman from Glendale had sponsored this legislation, and it got passed and signed. So obviously they're concerned about you people to the point where they're trying to encourage reporting of crimes that before had gone unreported. So there is certainly action right now in your favor. And with the movement, the Me Too movement, talking about taking advantage of many of these women in the stories that you hear, people are paying attention to this. It's no longer a side issue. Probably only in the last maybe 3-4 years, I would guess. Do you see any changes in your mind in terms of which direction we're going?
I definitely think we're headed in the right direction. I see a lot of different movements in our country in the past in regards to how homosexuals were treated, and I think I witnessed the tipping point there, and I really do feel like we're at a tipping point currently. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she met with sex workers in New York. That gives me hope. She's a member of the Senate now, so I think we are headed in the right direction. That's why I like to talk about this as much as I can, because I think it's a lot of the time people just haven't questioned what they have been taught. We have been taught to think about sexual women and sex workers in a certain way, and we're just now being asked to question that. We're just now starting a conversation about consent and what that means. And I know a lot of sex workers have taken a responsibility on themselves to educate people about sex, since sex education is something that's extremely lacking in this country. And I think there's so many different issues that intersect in sex work. I mean, we need to try and solve what causes trafficking. And I know that's a lot harder than just trying to outlaw prostitution in general.
Well, it's money.
Because
it's money and power.
The root causes of trafficking are poverty, homelessness, LGBTQ discrimination, gender inequity, you know. So, and those are things are a lot harder to address than just to say, let's just make it illegal, which makes no sense, because when people are trying to survive and they are using sex work to survive, they shouldn't be thrown in prison after that. You know, they're already in such a vulnerable position.
Well, Cortez actually is in the House of Representatives, not in the Senate, but she's part of a very large body of people that I'm sure now that the House is controlled by the Democrats, which tends to be much more liberal, or at least much more moderate, you may see some changes just as a result of that. And there was a federal case, by the way. I think it went to the circuit, the circuit in Washington. I'm not really sure what state it emanated from, that did outlaw legislation that prohibited sexual conduct among homosexuals. That was stricken down. That it hasn't been that long ago, actually, as I recall it.
Well, how about the gay marriage thing? You know, I mean,
but you see, it becomes a political issue. It's no longer a moral issue,
right?
Because of most of these characters that have come out so strongly against freedom of people to do what they choose to do, as long as they don't hurt anybody else.
Who cares?
Are really on the far, far right.
Right.
And
they're not having sex. That's their problem.
They're not getting caught. And you read every once in a while about Reverend such and such because just got busted. You
exactly.
Or politicians.
Right.
Elliot Spitzer lost his gig because he was
Anthony Weiner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to touch that one. No
Hopefully you're not going to touch Weiner?
No pun intended. I said that hoping I'd get some kind of response.
But
the fact of the matter is that there is a consciousness now that you should be treated equally as other people, and what you're doing for a living is what you choose to do for a living.
Yeah. Who's it harming anyways?
I don't think it harms anybody. It's a personal opinion.
I think actually it helps people because, you know, these guys are frustrated and they can't find a woman or whatever, and at least they have an outlet this way instead of going out and raping women and sexually assaulting women, stuff like that.
Well, I think that's a weird thing to say, because sometimes it comes off like just go do it to a sex worker.
I'm not saying it that way. I'm not saying that way.
I don't know what you mean, but I also don't think that like not having sex is not the root of rape. You know, I think it's a power.
I get it, but you're taking my words out of context. Okay, all right, you're taking my words out of context. I'm not saying it that way. I'm just saying the frustration of males and all that. No, I'm not saying go out instead of raping. Don't go rape a sex worker. I'm not saying that.
The lack of sexual experience is not what causes rape.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying guys are lonely and they want the power, of course, and they're lonely, and that's a way of them getting power.
Sex work is not going to. I don't think decriminalizing sex work probably won't result in like less sexual assaults outside of sex work, because we need to understand.
I disagree.
I disagree with that too. Yeah, I believe it would. I believe if they legalized prostitution, I think there would be a lot.
I absolutely believe that. Look, if you look in Nevada, there are certain counties in Nevada. We were going to have Dennis Hoff on our show, then he died.
Yeah, he passed on. My good friend.
That took care of that guest.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great example. He would invite Ron Jeremy to his place of work all the time, and he has been accused of many sexual assaults. So what do you do when sex work is decriminalized and you keep inviting people to your place of work?
Well, listen, let's not get into that.
I don't usually express any kind of political opinions on the show, as you know, Gary.
Right.
But on this one, I want to weigh in. I think it should be decriminalized, personally.
I do too.
Because I think it will give people an outlet, a legitimate outlet to go. It can be monitored. You can do a lot of things under a controlled circumstance that you couldn't do otherwise. And you could also do what they did with the cannabis legislation.
Right, exactly.
Taxes.
Tax it.
Taxes.
Exactly.
You can call it whatever. Some creative guy will come up, or gal will come up with some definition of what this tax will be called.
Woody tax. The Woody tax. I don't know.
As long as you don't get paid under the table.
Exactly. Well, listen. I mean, the bottom line is that it should be legal. I mean, it should be legal. It should be decriminalized. These girls are, just trying to make a living. I know many of them.
It's not only the girls.
There's guys too. I know. There's also transgenders. There's all sorts of people, Judge. I'm just saying that.
Well, and that is something that is important to acknowledge, is that a large percentage of sex workers are transgender because they have had trouble finding places of work, or they've been discriminated in their place of work. I don't think that people who are transgender just want to do sex work more. So it does put a magnification glass on why are people who are transgender doing sex work more,
They need a gig.
That's an important thing to acknowledge.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any statistics
I think
for
that it's also important to talk about how we want decriminalization and we do not want legalization, because in places where it has been legalized, the government comes in and tells girls and forces them to get their tests done and go to the doctor, which is something that us in our industry and the adult entertainment side, we really try to self-regulate that. So
yeah, but hold on.
You know what to do.
That's a little scary, because I'd rather have it legalized where there is a mandatory thing of being tested, and that if somebody does go and hire you to perform acts or whatever, that they could say, hey, do you have the paperwork or whatever? Because you don't know.
Show me your license.
Yeah, well, it happens in the porn business a lot.
If you're not regulating the unprotected sex that happens thousands of times at every bar and nightclub in America, I don't want you coming in and regulating what my friends have to do.
Well, I'm not paying for it. I'm not paying for it at a bar or whatever. But if I'm going and paying for it and spending money for this,
then do your due diligence and wear a condom. How about that?
Well, I mean, I don't like wearing condoms.
Well, that's why we have STD outbreaks in our country.
Not me, baby. Not me. I haven't had one ever. So there you go.
When's the last time you got tested?
Never. But I haven't been sick. I haven't had sex in 100 years. So there you go. That's why. Probably 25 years I haven't had sex. My problem. But that's a personal thing.
Symptomless STDs exist. So
all right, cool.
Well, but the bottom line really is that protects the public.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the government has talked about in all this legal dialogue is, when does the government have to get involved? It's when there's a controlling public interest.
Right.
And a controlling public interest and keeping people healthy should prevail over other considerations.
It's just like the legalization of marijuana. I mean, they tax it, and there's certain things these dispensaries have to go through to make sure that they're marijuana.
Well, it's my body. That's a different thing than a business. This is my body.
Well, it is a business, though.
I don't want the government coming in and telling me what I can do with my body.
But it's a business, isn't it? Isn't what you do a business? Don't you get paid to do this? It's a business, isn't it?
Yes, but it's also my body.
Well,
so that's it's so black and white.
The definition of prostitution is that somebody is paying for it. And in your business, people are paying for it.
Well, is it prostitution when I'm on set? We have a system in place where the government does not regulate us. We don't want them to regulate us. So we have the FSC pass system in place so that doesn't have to happen.
So you want it decriminalized, but you don't want it legalized, which is, I don't know, that's sort of, I don't get that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a distinction without a difference.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But
well, the reality is that there's changes that are being made now that we've ignored for many, many years. And I think it's a good thing that we talk about it.
Yeah, and no one should be forced to have any. Sex trafficking is a huge thing, and nobody should be forced to perform.
But that's that's easy to discern, because when you have sex trafficking, you got a business of people who are out there taking bodies and selling.
I understand that, but I'm saying that's a terrible thing. But it's a whole, it's so wide range with this whole thing. The sex workers and. The trafficking it doesn't go hand in hand, but it's a part of that whole culture. That's what I'm saying. It's part of it. It is. I mean,
look, if you're in business, you could have a pension and everything.
And I mean, people are forced into the restaurant industry. They're forced into the maid industry. They're forced into all these other industries, but nobody ever claims that we should just abolish those industries. So that's the difference.
I think it's pretty hard.
We should work on how to combat the issues, and some people will refuse to even accept that there are sex workers out there doing it consensually. That is the most frustrating part, is that I follow thousands of sex workers on the internet who do it consensually, who are being punished for it, who are being denied access to countries. And I mean, I know they're breaking laws, so
how's that?
Got to change those laws.
If you want to apply for a passport, they don't say you can't have one because you're a sex worker.
So I met a full service sex worker in Costa Rica who was
full service.
Canadian.
Would you define that for me?
Come on, Judge. You know what full service is. Everything.
It means they meet clients. It means they meet clients in person, basically.
Right.
And so she was denied entry into the United States. She was stopped at customs, and apparently she was asked if she likes to do anal. She was asked all these sexually degrading questions, and then she was denied access to the United States. So that was her version of the story. I don't know what really happened. It just seems like it's another way to control people and what they do with their bodies in the privacy of their own home with their own money. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the government coming in and trying to control that.
Well, if somebody wants more information, Ginger, where do they go? How do they get a hold of you, or how or if they want to participate in the fight? How does it roll?
You can go to survivorsagainstcesta.org or stopcesta.org if you want to read more information on it.
Okay, cool. Judge, we got to take a break.
Okay, you can call the senator from Kentucky.
Who, Mitch McConnell?
No, Ray.
Rand Paul?
Rand Paul.
They're both from Kentucky.
He's probably on your side.
Rand Paul?
Yeah, he voted against it.
Right, so maybe Rand Paul will be the one. Are you for that, for Rand Paul? You'd be the only one for him, I think, outside of Kentucky.
No, there's one other guy, whoever that may have been.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
I mean, rarely do I ever support a politician on every single issue, but on that issue, we do see eye to eye.
That's interesting.
Eye to eye. That's good.
Eye to eye. All right.
I think that was it.
Yeah, we got to take a break now. All right.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. I appreciated your input, and good luck to you on your efforts. I think you're fighting a good battle, and at the end of the day, you may win.
Yeah, me and Judge definitely agree. Decriminalize, prostitution. I mean, whatever you want to call it.
No, but she distinguishes between prostitution and consensual sexual businesses.
Yeah.
Like
prostitution is prostitution versus sex trafficking. Those are the differences that a lot of people refuse to acknowledge. Just lump us all in together. And a lot of people that are charged with that get help with trafficking don't even want it, which is a very interesting discussion to have also.
They don't want what?
They don't want to be helped. Like, when they get arrested, a lot of the times they can just say they were forced into it, and they're not going to be charged with prostitution. And so those numbers are skewed in that favor.
Well, I guess that's up to a good criminal defense lawyer.
Or the person's conscious, you know what I mean? Or whatever they want to believe in. They don't want to deal with it.
Well, I think we want to put out a narrative of the mafia or a bunch of people being forced into shipping containers when it's a much more complicated issue, sex trafficking, It's usually a friend or a family member forcing you to do it. And that's something I think it's also hard to acknowledge.
Well, I'm sure there's an interesting history that goes in with it, but remember, it's the oldest profession in history, and so
Jesus was friends with one.
Just didn't start last week.
No, it didn't. It did not. Well, thanks a lot, Ginger, for calling. We really appreciate the conversation.
You guys so much for having me and talking to me about this. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It's Ginger Banks. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. Thanks. That was interesting. I don't get the difference between decriminalizing and legalizing.
I wouldn't say that was interesting, actually. I thought that was what we heard was a perspective from one side, And I find that, I keep saying I find, it's like when
I find guilty.
When I'm making a decision, I find whatever. I didn't think that there was much there other than she wants to distinguish between prostitution and sex workers.
Well,
I don't see the difference.
All right, we got to take a break. I don't know. You wanted a porn star, I got you. All right.
10:50 a.m. KCAA.
Herb Dodell is a lawyer and a judge for the people. Having served as a Superior Court judge, presiding over more than 9,000 cases, he has witnessed firsthand how complicated and corrupt the legal system can be. His goal is to show how things really work in the legal system so that people can navigate the legal system in the best way for them. Many people often feel marginalized by the legal system and are uninformed about how to proceed when unfortunate circumstances arise in their life. Judge Herb will pull back the curtain, lift the veil so people can truly understand their rights, have access to top legal personnel that they can trust, and have knowledge about how things work so they can make better choices. Judge Herb isn't just knowledgeable. His integrity and spiritual values are truly what make him different. He cares about democratizing access and information for all and desires to turn on the light so the people, you, can benefit. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Okay, it was interesting in the sense that I had never really had an intellectual conversation with somebody in that business, and it's interesting to see the perspective. But the fact of the matter is, the law is very clear. Anytime that you are taking money from anybody for any kind of sex act, it's called prostitution, and that's against the law.
Which is ridiculous.
I find it's pretty hard to distinguish between the stuff that you see on the cable stations and whatever it is, porn, plain old porn, and prostitution. Somebody's paying for it.
Yeah.
Where's the difference?
And what's it harming anybody? I mean, honestly, I just don't get it.
Well, years and years ago, I traveled through Europe a lot, and I was in Amsterdam on business a number of times.
Yeah, red light district.
And I would walk through the red light district over the little bridges and everything else. It was fascinating. It truly was fascinating because the women sit in a little window.
Cubicle.
A window.
Yeah.
What's a window?
Yeah. You go shopping for women.
And they have these lights and all this psychedelic stuff and the big smile and the crossing the legs and the whole thing. And it's a business. People go in and negotiate their deals, and who's hurt by it?
Exactly. I just don't get it. And I used to talk to Dennis Hoff about it all the time. He owned multitudes of, what do you call it? Whorehouses, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, bordellos. And I mean, it doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, and everybody's doing it. Everybody's paying for it. I mean, Lamar Odom, the NBA star, OD'd at one of his places. He used to tell me that a lot of congressmen, government officials, police officers would go in there and partake in it. I mean, it's just
in Nevada.
In Nevada, yeah. But the point being is that what distinguishes Nevada from the rest of the country? I just don't understand it. It's harming nobody, okay? And if somebody wants to pay for sex, they should pay for sex. Listen, when you go out on a date with a woman, if I go out on a date with a woman and I dig her, I'm going to blow $150, $200, $250 on dinner, drinks, whatever we do. Go to a concert or go to a ball game or whatever it is, because that's my choice. So what's the difference between that? And I don't even know if I'm going to have sex at the end of the night with her. So what's the difference?
If you don't, do you say it's a bad investment?
I don't look at it that way. I never looked at it that way, even though there's been a couple dates where I said, damn, I wish I wouldn't have gone out with that chick. And I paid for the dinner anyways. I mean, I wasn't just going to stiff her. So,
Point being, I mean, you're paying for it one way or the other. You know, whether you're even married, you're paying for it. If you're married to your wife, not saying you, Judge, but when you get married or you have a girlfriend that lives with you or whatever, and you're the breadwinner of the family, you know, and you're bringing in all the dough, what are you doing? You're paying for it. You're paying for companionship. You're paying for what you call it, love, companionship, whatever you want to do. You're paying for it. Okay, so what's the difference of somebody who's lonely and doesn't have a girlfriend or doesn't have, you know, whatever, if you're gay or transgender, whatever it is, and they want to have companionship and they want to have some sort of sexual activity. What does it harm anybody? Why does the government, why do people care about this type of thing? It's just like, you know, when you do cocaine or heroin or smoking marijuana, who's it harming? It's harming the person doing it, if anything, and maybe they're conscious. Why do we have to be the conscious of other human beings? We're not the judge. God's our judge. If you believe in God, I don't understand it. Never have.
Well, if you look at the history of legalized prostitution in Nevada, in Washoe County, and throughout the counties that allow it. And there was a place called Mustang Ranch. I know.
Yeah, the Mustang Ranch, the Bunny Ranch. Dennis owned the Bunny Ranch, the Love Ranch. You know,
is that like in Pahrump?
Yeah, the Love Ranch. Yeah, I actually did my radio show from there a couple times. I'd go when I went to the AVN Awards, which is actually happening this week, the Adult Video Awards in Vegas. I'd go over there and go down to the Love Ranch and do my show and hang out. It was a great place. I was treated carte blanche, man. I mean, you know, I partaked one time. You know, I've been down there probably a half a dozen times.
Didn't Dennis tell you you should partake more often? He was on the house.
Yeah, it was always on the house, and I never did. I never really took advantage.
And you wouldn't have been paying for it.
That's what I'm saying. He used to let me go. He used to have his birthday party. In fact, 4 days before he passed away in October, he had his birthday party. He was on my radio show, like literally that Thursday, and I couldn't make it down there because, you know, now that I went down there. I went once to his birthday party, had a great time. He put me up in a casino, flew me in, limos, the whole 9 yards. Didn't have to pay for a damn thing. And I didn't, you know, that night of his party, I was invited by a beautiful, beautiful woman to have fun with her. And I said, well, you know, I don't have any money and blah, blah, blah. She's like, well, why don't you go ask Dennis? And I was like, nah, he was with like a couple girls. It's his birthday. I'm not that type of guy. You know what I mean? I'm not going to like infringe like that. So I said, nah, that's okay. And then the next day at the pool, he's like, did you have a great time? And I go, yeah, it was fun, Dennis. He goes, did you partake in the activities? I go, well, no, you know, I didn't have any money and blah, blah, blah. It was all on the house, man. You know, what are you talking about? So he was a really good dude. But, you know, it's stupid. I mean, guys want to have sex with women, and women that need money, that are trying to put themselves through, some of them were going through college, trying to become lawyers, doctors, all sorts of things. They would go work there to get themselves through school and things like that. So it wasn't just like there were a bunch of crazy, you know, I think the sex workers get a really bad rap that they're all a bunch of drug addicts and, you know, they're always high and they're disheveled and mentally unstable. But, you know, I don't see that. I've met hundreds of them. And yeah, there's a few of them like that. I'm not saying all of them are pure and all that.
Pure is a poor choice.
Well, whatever you want to call it, you know, I mean, that they're normal, and some of them are not normal. Okay, let's call it what it is. I dated a few of them. I've been seeing this one off and on for 7 years, and you know, she's a little off kilter, but
literally off and on, huh?
Off and on, yeah. Yeah, more off than on. But what the point being is that they're just human beings trying to make a living, trying to get through life like the rest of us. Who are we to judge? Okay,
but the history,
who are I to judge?
But the history in Nevada does not reflect a series of violence or anything like that.
No.
And I know that they've raised a lot of money. That's why there's no sales, there's no personal income tax in Nevada.
Yeah, no state
Not because
tax.
of the brothels, but because they have ways to raise their money and they don't need to
through the casinos, through the brothels.
Well, yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Look, you know, bookmaking used to be a crime. We used to prosecute people for bookmaking.
I know.
People today don't even know what the term bookmaking means. You know what a bookmaker is?
Of course it is. A guy that takes bets, basically. Takes bets on sports betting, you know. Sports betting.
Did you have the Rams, by the way?
I had the Rams and the Patriots.
You really picked both of them.
I got them both. Yeah, I got them both. I bet heavy on the Patriots too. Boy, that was a hell of a game. But yeah, I did bet heavy on the Patriots. I mean, I've been betting my whole life. I love betting.
Bookmaking used to be a crime.
Right.
People used to take bets on horses and all kinds of things. The numbers racket was very, very big in New York.
Right.
People had never heard of the numbers racket. Basically it's bingo with paper.
Okay.
And now it's legal.
It's a federal law now. That's legal.
No, bookmaking is still illegal. It's still on the books. But when you look at
sports betting,
you could do it, but you could do it on the computer.
Right, but I mean, sports betting is not a federal law. It's legal. I mean, New Jersey, I think Mississippi has it now. I don't understand why the California casinos, like the Indian casinos, haven't gotten sports books yet. I mean, because that's going to be a multi-million-dollar business for these guys. I just don't understand why they haven't done it yet. But bottom line is that you're not harming anybody but yourself. Okay, I mean, especially with this prostitution and gambling and all. I like gambling. Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's my money. I can do whatever I want with it. Why do people judge each other, Judge? Why is there such animosity towards somebody else that doesn't agree with their terms?
But that's exactly what comes to the root of it all. People judging others, saying, I don't think this is right, and therefore we're going to make sure that it's illegal. And you find, look, for many, many years, you had rules that stores could not be open on Sunday. Did you know that they used to call them blue laws?
They still have them, I think, in Utah.
Maybe in Utah, but in Pennsylvania, you couldn't buy liquor at a liquor store because there was no such thing. You had to buy it from a state store.
I don't get it.
That's the only place you could buy anything. There was nothing in the supermarkets, and you couldn't open on a Sunday because it was considered working on the Sabbath. And so the religious people those days had a lot more power and a lot more influence. It kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and by the way, the same people that would say, "Oh, we can't do that," would be drinking on Sundays and doing gambling on Sunday. I mean, it's just so hypocritical. What I find about our society is it's so hypocritical. It really is.
But the good news is that things change. And as soon as you get a groundswell of people who believe in individual freedoms, it's going to change a little bit more. Not that it's the right, the left, and the center. The fact is, on both wings, Republican, Democrat, right, left, whatever, the fringes are the ones that make the big problems. The people in the middle generally are much more flexible.
Yeah, well, we need more flexibility in the society. I've just never understood why people judge one another so harshly, and the division of our country is I mean, you can see it every day. It's sad. It's sad.
But it's been that way from the beginning.
Yeah, but it wasn't
never
this bad.
changed. No, when you started in the 1700s, the late 1700s, there was some real regulation that went along those days that doesn't apply today.
Yeah.
But things have changed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break.
All right. If you want to ask the judge a question, it's askjudgeherb@gmail.com. And also get his book, From the Trench to the Bench, available on Amazon.com. We'll be back.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
In his book, From the Trench to the Bench, Judge Herb Dodell demystifies the legal system, including both civil and criminal, the lawyers, the judges, and the process. As a judge, former deputy district attorney, and criminal defense attorney, he knows the legal system. He has the inside information that you need to pick a lawyer, and he's here to give it to you. No matter what you're facing that makes you think you may need a lawyer, Judge Herb will shed valuable light on your situation and reveal your best options and many secrets of how the judicial system actually works. To find out more about how the legal system really works, you can get your copy of Judge Herb Dodell's eye-opening book, From the Trench to the Bench, at Amazon.com.
like I said earlier, we try to do things that are different. This was different. We did talk about the law, kind of. I really wanted to talk about the personal stuff.
But she didn't want to,
She didn't want to
Judge.
do it.
Okay, I mean, they asked me. I mean, I talked to her publicist, and
I
they're
mean,
like,
I would like to have asked her,
Like what?
how'd she get into the business?
how do you think?
My gut feeling is, and you can tell from the way she expresses herself, she saw it as a money-making opportunity and didn't see any reason to distinguish it from any other job. And she probably liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long she's been doing it. I don't know much about her.
Ginger Banks.
Yeah, I don't know much about her, but I'm sure there's a.
She started in 2009 doing camming. Okay.
What's camming mean?
Like webcams. You go on. They do webcams now. That's a lot of the girls make money. In fact, most of the girls make money doing webcams. They just put a camera in their bedroom or whatever, turn it on, and they go to these different websites, and guys pay to watch them do sexual acts on themselves or with other girls or guys or whatever.
On a webcam? Is that
it's called a webcam. Like you have a camera on your, like I have a camera on my laptop. You have a camera, I'm sure, on your computer. So
a cell phone too.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably do it on your cell phone, but they have webcams, and basically they just set them up and set them up in a bedroom, and then they just, get paid. Guys pay them via credit card. I don't even know how they get paid. Who knows? To do sex acts and to interact with them, to talk to them via like typing, texting, and stuff like that. So they'll go, "Hello, how are you? I'm fine, blah blah blah. You're beautiful."
Is this like one-on-one?
Yeah, it's one-on-one. They go into like private rooms. It's called like a private room. Once a guy pays for it, or a girl or whoever, they go into these private rooms, and then the girl interacts with the guy. So it's like interaction without actually having to be with the guy and performing anything on it.
It's like virtual sex.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they're doing nowadays. That's what the industry has turned into, more than performing sexual acts. And doing prostitution. They're doing a lot of webcams.
I'm curious of what happens at you mentioned that you were thinking of, or you had gone to the convention.
Oh, I've been there many times. I've been going there since like the year 2000 when it was nothing. Now it grew big time because of the Howard Stern show. I mean, Howard put this thing on the map, the Adult Video News Awards. It's this weekend. I'm not going. I just have no interest in going anymore.
What exactly happens at these conventions?
Just, you hang out. It's at the Hard Rock Hotel.
That's interesting. Great name.
Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas. And they have a convention. And then they have the Adult Video News Awards. So they have awards, best this, best that, and I don't want to.
I can't imagine what the awards
are. Oh, yeah. That, believe me. You can imagine it, and it's every bit that.
Best beast.
Best everything. Best. Yeah, I can't even say. Okay, best oral or whatever it is. I mean, they best new starlet.
Who are the judges? I mean, do they?
It's the company that throws the thing, the Adult Video News. I think it's a magazine or something like that. So, anyways, they have this big award show, and I used to cover it for the Stern show every year. I literally went from 2000 to 2000. I don't know, probably every year from 2000 to 2010. I went.
Was Howard going?
No, I would do it. I'd go to Vegas, and then I'd go do the interviews with the porn stars. They would write the questions out, and I would ask these crazy-ass questions. I mean, really filthy, crazy questions to these girls. And they would answer every one of them. They had no filter at all. And then Howard would play it on the air. I'd have a camera guy some of the time. And then after I left the Stern show, I went down there probably 3 or 4 different times. Last time I went was like 3 years ago. And, I had a good time. Everybody knows me from the Stern show, so it's fun. I know a lot of the adult industry people. My friends produced movies and this and that. So, but I just don't have any interest in doing it. I didn't go last year, and I'm not going this year. It just doesn't interest me anymore.
Big business.
It used to be really big, but since everything's on the internet, it's all free porn now. So they don't make movies like they used to back in the day. And it's just it's just completely changed. The whole.
When you say it's free, what do you mean by that?
Well, you can go on all these. You can go on all these. They have all different porn sites. Just Google pornography or porn, and there's like hundreds of different websites that have clips of video clips of adult stars having sex, you know. And it's for free. You don't have to pay for it.
Don't they have companies that you got to be a member of it or something like that?
I mean, I'm sure there's some of them, but I mean, you can just Google, porn websites, and there's hundreds of them now. Pornhub is a big one, and I don't know what the other ones are, but I mean,
how do they make money?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe through advertising. Maybe that some of them have advertising. I think. I don't know. I don't know how they make the money.
It used to be called product placement. On the night table next to the bed is a can of Coca-Cola.
Well, they might put a vibrator there. I have no idea. I mean, I really
no, but
don't.
I'm curious.
I don't know.
You see all these places that are for free. Nothing's for free.
Well, I mean, they got to be making money somehow.
How?
I don't judge. Why are you asking me? I don't know. I just
want to learn.
Well, go talk to a porn website master or something. I don't. You want to have one of those on? I'm sure we can get one. I don't know how they do it. I have no idea how they make the money. Maybe these companies pay them to put the porn, on their website. I don't know. I really don't. I have no idea. But it's completely changed. I mean, my friends used to be big time producers, and they haven't made a movie. Well, I think they made one last year, and they make one a year. But they used to make like 6, 7, 8 of them a year, and they can't do it now because everything's free. And they've lost all their money and everything. They've just gone down. It's completely changed. So. The industry's changed. The girls are, like I said, doing webcams now. That's how they're making the money. Back in the day, they would do like a movie, and then they would go off to strip clubs and things like that. But I guess there's a lot of money in these webcams, from what I understand.
Well, how do the participants make any money? You don't know that either.
The participants? What do you mean?
And these webcams.
The girls?
Yeah, how do they make money?
They get paid.
Oh, I see. Somebody who wants to be in there.
They watch. No, they watch. Some guy goes, okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to some porn website. This My Live Cams or something. I mean, this girl who painted this studio did live camming. Okay, I only was with her for a couple of months, but she did live camming. So I guess they go on these websites or something like that. These live cam websites, and these guys go and find out a girl that they dig or are attracted to, and then they get online with them, video-wise, and then they pay money. I guess it's through a video card or tokens.
I guess it's like years ago, there used to be a telephone sex thing.
Yeah, it's like
pay $2 a minute or $3 a minute.
Same thing, but they do it now with
visuals.
Visuals, yeah, it's all visuals. So that's how a lot of these girls are making money. So that's how I guess Ginger Banks broke into the business back in 2009. So, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about it anymore.
How much do you think these people are making in compensation over a year?
I think some of these girls are making some serious money. I mean, some of them are making some good money. I mean, I don't know how much money. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, depending on the girl, I guess if you save your money and don't spend any of it, you'll probably make some decent money.
Sounds like a low overhead business.
Yeah, it's just a camera and, some lingerie, I guess.
And some clean sheets.
And some clean sheets and a vibrator. There you go. That's all you need. Yeah, that's it.
Very low overhead.
Exactly. Maybe I should do it,
Well, people get into the strangest businesses. There's a commercial on right now for cannabis business.
Oh, yeah.
How to get into cannabis business.
Oh, yes, I've heard it.
And the guy that seems to be running it is the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, John Boehner.
I don't doubt it one bit, man. I mean, it's a big business. I mean, the cannabis business is going to be huge, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. It's just the beginning of this. This is like the Wild West of the marijuana industry. So I was actually I'm talking to somebody on Wednesday about this, about how much it costs to get a dispensary. It's like $5 million. Which is crazy.
Why? Because you need to get the license. It's like in New York many years ago, I think it probably still is the same. In order to own a taxi, you had to have what's called a medallion.
Oh yeah.
And the medallions used to cost a fortune.
Oh, I believe
because they kind of limited the number of cabs. So I guess it's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the same sort of thing. Judge, we got to go. I don't know why. I don't know what happened with our clock, but we're
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.